Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is AGF. Antye's work explodes in all kinds of different directions. She facilitates the platform Rec On, which experiments with short-form investigative audio, pulls together resources that converge around the ideas of listening, the political, and sound. She hosts workshops. She's been a musician for a long time and was involved in computer music when it was in its nascency, really. I love her music. There's a lot of manipulation of language through much of it, and this sense of breaking down, deconstructing, atomizing the components of language and breath and body and rhythm and many other things. It's always a really intense, vigorous listen, Antye's music. And she is wonderful to talk to. Like, she loves music, which is great for this podcast. She picked 3 records that have an abundance of lovely stories connected to them. And she had to go somewhere quiet for this interview, so what you're hearing is Antye in the woods. I really enjoyed hearing the very slight kind of wintry air in the background of the recording when we were talking. And we were actually having the conversation on the morning that Trump's presidential victory was confirmed, which we address in the opening few minutes of the conversation. Kind of kick things off with a gloomy tone, but it was so lovely to hear about Antye's connection to sound and listening, and I felt really nourished and invigorated by her presence, her conversation. So if you are enjoying Crucial Listening and you want to support it, you can do over at ko-fi.com/crucial listening. You can donate monthly or one-off, any amount you please. Thank you so much. Alright, that's enough preamble. This is AGF on Crucial Listening. Hello, Antye. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. How are you doing today? I know we discussed this a little bit beforehand.
Ooh. Yeah, it's been a bad day, actually. The US election was just last night, and it's really been devastating, but I'm happy to talk to you, and I'm very familiar with you and your podcast, so I'm very honored to be invited, and I was looking forward to this, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So you're here to talk about 3 important albums. Before we get to those, I want to talk about your projects, Antye. And there's lots that we could cover here. I know something.
This is because I'm old. It is.
But even in recent weeks, there's been so much. So workshops to begin with. I know there's been a few of these recently. Am I right in thinking you're actually in the midst of a online workshop for camp?
It ended last weekend. But I'm going this weekend again. I'm going to Athens, and I'm gonna work with Cedric Vermont on another workshop. We facilitate there 10 artists from Greece. So yeah, it got really an interesting kind of one leg of being an artist. So this kind of like outer institutional teaching, or like kind of like bonding into an institution or not, like in and out festivals. Or I'm asked a lot to do workshops, and I like it. I prefer it actually at the moment to, for example, playing concerts. I really like this kind of exchange and collaboration and discussing sound and music and make things together, like either outside or in university spaces or festival spaces or something like this. Yeah, and often I'm also asked to curate, so I can invite artists to come from all over the world to join the podcast and join the workshops. So yeah, it's been great. It's also exhausting. It's very demanding work, but I learn a lot. And just in the recent years, for example, last year I also did workshops with children again. I used to do this on the island here in Finland where I live for a few years, and now I was asked to do it in Switzerland in a really new kind of interesting new school model kind of situation, and I was teaching listening. We were trying to develop a listening curriculum together with the kids, and that was also very intense and beautiful project where I learned so much about evolution of listening in general, how to talk about listening, how to facilitate it, and so on. So yeah, this is one thing I'm doing.
How was the camp one? How did it go?
The camp one was nice. We were maybe 7 women, and some were more engaged than others. It was really kind of intimate and beautiful. We're all same kind of artists working with voice and texture, and we had like beautiful intersecting conversations and inspirational. I don't know, we were investigating about how much is listening connected to the spine or our body, like how deep does it go? Like this is a little bit speculative, but I was thinking about listening and position and how to hold your position while listening, for example, to dissonance or to something you don't like or you hate or that's very unpleasant, or like that kind of very human ways of how we zoom in and out and how we run away or stay or hold, and it's a political sentiment also, not just about sound artistically speaking, but we were investigating this. So
wow.
how much does spine or spine standing for stance or position or like maybe attitude or conviction, something like that, how does it connect to our listening process, and how does it change after we listened something, and this kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess we just scratched the surface because I have not yet done. I'm getting into it. Like I started reading and I'm looking for books that talk also about like, because our spine and our listening path, they meet in the brain, and then before they actually go to the brain, so it's quite interesting. I think there's a lot about listening we don't understand enough anymore or haven't really analyzed enough. I don't know, most people at least, and I find it at least worth investigating more, because something is off the way how we understand our environment and planet and the health of it and our own health and how we are taking care of our environment. I feel like evolutionary speaking, we probably have used listening and hearing and our sense of hearing a lot, while evolving into what we are. And even like I was thinking, how old is hearing, how old is listening, when did it start to connect more to language and all these processes, or song for that matter, like there is papers who suggest that language actually comes from song. So the moment somebody does a song, there's also somebody listening, and so on and so on. It's very, very interesting. So I'm really curious about that, and also understanding more of our own technologies, which are inside us. Because I'm so disappointed what's happening with technology and where it's going. It used to be, for me as a computer musician, it used to be liberation, freedom, my path into being an artist. It used to be so much of my dream, or like my personal freedom came along with the internet and with technology, the personal access to technology. And what's happening now is really, really scary and really sad. And yeah, I'm quite shocked, honestly, about the exploitation that has happened to this, and also what to do with it. So I think maybe withdrawing back to the technologies that are within us and within life in itself. Maybe more something I want to now engage with at this moment.
I think what's lovely is that when I think of workshops, just from a surface level, generally you think of someone imparting their knowledge from a place of having a firm understanding, or like a really concrete understanding of what they're giving over to people. But it sounds like for you, facilitating the workshops is a way to also pass your own relationship with things and explore them more. Is that the case?
Oh, for sure. That is just when you engage with people. And also, like, it's very different if you work with children or you work with your own peers, which, for example, in the camp workshop, there were people my age who were, peers. So there's another level of exchange happening. But yeah, no, it is definitely a constant search. I mean, I think the creativity is in the moment of doing. And so that's what workshops do, and that's why I like them, because I guess I always prefer, and this is I guess who I am, I make things, I do things, and then afterwards I'm like, oh wow, I did that. I just read code into music, and that's the thing that's coming out of it. Oh my, everything I've done. So I'm total autodidact. Like I have no school or degrees or anything like that. So I've always just did stuff, and then afterwards realized, ooh, that's what's happening. Of course, now with like being older and having been around, I plan things more. But then again, I often just plan time and space to do something. Yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to touch on Recon here, which has been running for a number of years at this point, right? I looked at
2020 I set it up.
Oh, amazing. So how has your relationship with that project changed over time, because it's grown? You've obviously inducted more and more resources and information within that project, and more sounds. So yeah, tell me a bit about how that's developed from your standpoint.
Yeah, in the beginning I was thinking about how to release music. So in the last 10-15 years or longer even, it became more and more difficult to release music the way we used to, and kind of like the frustration of that, and also platformism, and how music is being used by huge commercial platforms like YouTube or something to get really big, but then being dropped and nobody is rewarded. Like the exploitation levels just really got on my nerves. Yeah. And at the same time, the algorithm, the boosting of algorithmic listening, I was just really thinking, oh my God, like all these people doing this amazing work, like really engaged political sound work, they have 10 listeners, while all the other stuff is like the AI generated music is now generating more listens than something that's lovingly, carefully researched and done, So this was the reason why I started Recon. I was thinking I want to make an alternative space for that kind of work that's really, really dedicated and specific and unique, and I want to lift it and first I was thinking it should be more like a sound museum or something, but then more and more I developed this idea of Recon.org, and I actually got a grant for it. So we have a company here in Finland who is very rich, Kone Foundation, and they give grants every year, and they gave me a grant to make the site.
Oh wow!
And that was how I could afford also pay people. I paid everyone who contributed, unless it was part of a workshop or something. Yeah, and so in the beginning I was also thinking about different sound formats. So, oh my God, you should see how beautiful it is here. I just looked around. In the beginning I was just thinking about inventing new sound formats, like what about making something in 1 minute, or what about finding a different kind of content form that's not podcast, that's not radio, that's not record, it's not what exists, but just experiment with what else is possible, what can we do with listening formats online and so on. And so this was what I started with. And then I was also interested in different kind of feminist sonic technologies is one section where I'm looking specifically for sound artists who work around feminisms. And over the time I think I'm really happy about it. It's growing. I will make more work. I will try to bring people together. I'm also summoning these kind of people. I'm used to a lot of feminist networking through female pressure also.
Yeah.
And I have also another kind of loose network called East Flock Sound. It's around former communist, post-Soviet kind of territories who kind of, in my opinion, have been hidden, not lately anymore, but when we started. And so we're organizing in this kind of East Flock diaspora.
Nice.
It's also really, this is kind of like very important to me as well. Although I'm born and raised in East Germany and is a German background, so has also another kind of like, huge package to carry, but still I grew up in Soviet occupied or Soviet space. So for me this is very, very much part of my socialization. So we're organizing there as well, and it also has reflected on Recon, for example. I'm looking also for spaces that are basically semi-periphery or gaps, or people who fall through in geopolitical importance, or attention or something like that.
Amazing. Well, Antye, one more thing I want to touch on here, and appreciate this is very whistle stop, but you had a record come out in the last couple of months. Netmotif came out in September. So I was looking into the premise behind it. There seems to be a lot that's funneled into this work in terms of the concept and what you're pulling on. But an archaeologist, Marija Gimbutas, I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, but could you tell me a bit about how you ended up folding her work into your music? What was it that drew you to what she was doing?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. So I'm an atheist. I'm raised by commies. We had Marx for breakfast in fifth grade. we had to say Lenin quotes in school, and I was really raised without religion, and actually I do appreciate this a lot. I feel it makes me more free of a person independently of what I believe or something. And anyway, so I was still interested how religion is so much occupying spaces in people's minds, and it's kind of curious to me. And I was thinking about, all these forgotten religions, the older ones before the monotheistic ones that are now dominating the planet. And I was thinking, there are so many goddesses. And actually it was initiated by my daughter when she was 6 years old. She went to school and came back and said, "Mom, how many gods exist?" And I'm like, I don't know, let's Google. And we Google, and it's like 330 million.
Wow.
And and she said, okay, and can you write it down? She couldn't write yet. So I wrote it down for her, and she put it in her little rucksack and went to school next day. And I don't know what the conversation was there, but I think she brought it up.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
Yeah, because it's a quite we live quite remotely, and there's Christian, partly fundamentalist Christians and also normal Christians around. So I don't know, she was the only kid who wasn't, or she had to face this kind of question, and she was the only atheist in the class, so she had to get there. And this made me think, oh my God, yeah, actually there's so many goddesses. And then I thought, oh, I'm gonna make beats for them. And it's like part of like my feminist work. I'm making tracks for women who are forgotten. For many years, I'm making this series of poetry or sound and language and feminism. And so I was thinking, oh, I'm going to dedicate really banging beats to all these goddesses. And I started doing this years ago. And it was just on Bandcamp, a little project, and it wasn't very deep. And now that I've done 5 EPs, that way I was thinking, oh, I could summon this. And also I always researched, about these goddesses, and I came across the work of Maria Gombutas, who is a Lithuanian-American anthropologist, archaeologist, and she has released many books on the goddess and the goddess theory, and she's been also her whole life ignored and belittled and laughed at, by the serious anthropology and archaeology. And lately it came out through some new findings and new peer-reviewed papers, blah, blah, blah. It came out that she was actually right about a lot of things. And I think it's in the process still, and there's of course still things that have to be negotiated, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a truth I'm bringing forward, but it's just something we could reconsider about old Europe, how Europe maybe was for many thousands of years a peaceful place without exploitation and without warfare, actually. That's her theory. And it was a goddess-oriented society, so women had also equal rights, and they would also participate in decisions how to engage with other societies. So it's quite just very, very interesting, and I think it fits in our time to think about that. And yeah, especially that Europe is often seen as the source of all evil, which potentially it is through colonialism and maybe militarization and warfare practices, whatever. So this is for sure going on, although Europe is also very big and there has been a lot of things through the layers of our time. But it's very interesting to also think about this kind of knowledges we have, we are not told,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm really into, and I'm just suggesting people to look into it, and it's not like, it's not like I'm proposing a new, but there's other people who do similar, like David Graeber and David Van Gogh with their book, The Dawn of Everything. There's parts of this also appearing when they talk about these archaeological sites that have no hierarchies, that have no weapons, that have no, you cannot find an entire human time span is without warfare, it seems. So what are we doing? Like, what's actually going on? So like that kind of stuff. So that's why I made this record, and yeah, it's kind of funny that I make a record about goddesses while I'm an atheist, but maybe it's a good view from the outside. Yeah. And I think we maybe could work with like that kind of like symbolism a bit more, like, we need hope, and we need kind of like ideas that allow us to dream again of a more fairer and juster society. So I was thinking maybe we could start with symbols.
Love
like
it.
Hardcore gods.
Yeah,
like really, really cool goddesses or something, yeah. But now I already learned so much, because I'm asking people what their favorite goddesses, and what is your favorite goddess?
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Do you know
it
what?
out.
I'm gonna figure this out and come back to you, Antye.
That'd be awesome.
What a great question.
Yeah, for example, a friend of mine from India the other day told me about this goddess who is the goddess of self-sacrifice, and she cuts off her own head.
Wow.
I mean, that's not really a positive outlook, but that fits to this morning.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Anyway, yeah. Like there is a lot of depth in our existence as humans, I think, and also as collective humans, which we should rethink, I think, and that's a little bit what Net Motif is about. Otherwise, the music is just, I'm trying to be as radical as possible.
I love it. It's a great record.
Thank you.
Antye, there's so many links that I need to stuff into the show notes, and I will do so to the best of my ability. So people do go explore in many different directions. Antye, we should go to your important records now. So one thing I'd like to ask at this point is about how you thought about the word important when picking your list. So was there a way you understood that word important in order to come up with the list of 3 records that you did?
So I know your podcast really well, so I wasn't really threatening it. I wasn't really so concerned about, because of course it is a huge task for a musician who is in their 50s to choose 3 records. Like, I would actually like to say that I listen to everything, or I listen to a lot of music, especially in the electronics and digital music and all experimental music, everything that's coming out in our field. I listen to everything, and I like a lot of music. I'm not a super judgmental person, actually, in that way. I'm really open to listen to things and have a very welcoming mind to a lot of experimentation. I'm rather sometimes disappointed that people experiment not more, but in general, I'm really open. And when you said, when I read favorite records or important records, I was thinking I should indeed just maybe choose something that either is not very much, hasn't been brought to you, or I really stand behind, or also represents me. So this is how my selection came together. And I think the selection I made now is not the records necessarily fully my favorite records or something, or most important records, but they represent an angle in music that is very, very important to me. So that's why I chose them.
Great answer. Okay, Antye, we can go for your first important record then. So which one did you want to go for first?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could start with Silly, actually.
Yeah.
First of all, it's very silly that I choose that. It's a pop band from East Germany. Nobody knows them except East Germans, and I would almost say every East German knows them. They are that level famous.
Wow.
Like everyone who lived in the East Germany will know Silly, probably. I would be very surprised if somebody wouldn't know them who was living. So my parents were born into East Germany, and they lived there their whole lives until the wall came down, and I lived 20 years in East Germany. So I was already 20 when the wall came down. So it was quite big impact. So I'm second generation, fully East German. And then this country disappeared. And with this, a lot of artists. And the very famous band, Silly, they had a really charismatic, amazing singer who sadly died too early. She passed away, I don't know, I think end of 90s maybe. And she's just very charismatic, powerful woman with extremely expressive kind of rock kind of vibe. And her records as a child, when I was young, were really important to me. And I don't know, it's maybe like how Taylor Swift is now important, or, Beyonce, or I don't know, anyone like from any level. I don't know. It was this kind of level of pop for me behind the wall as a little East German, and she gave me courage. And I don't listen to this anymore. But when I listen back to it, I really see how important it has been for me to come from there, and how it still is in my entire artistic conviction to have like the lyric. I mean, it is a pop version, but the lyrics are very important, and the way how they carried themselves in pop music had, maybe there was also a lot of silly stuff for sure, and I don't know, they're called silly. But I wanted to play this one song, Mont Clamotte, which is one of their first tracks they released, and it's a really interesting song because it talks about Germany, and it talks about Berlin, and it talks about the war, the Nazi war, and it talks about the aftermath of the war and what stays after such a horrible thing happens. And the way how she tells the story and how she sings it is really moving, and in my opinion, a beautiful song. So I really wanted to show that to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I want to pick up on something you mentioned there, which is when you were listening to this when you were younger, it gave you courage. What about Silly did that for you?
I guess it was that it was a woman who was, singing so confidently about all sorts of things. Her texts or her work is really also feminist and self-convinced and powerful, and she has a very like rocky, like Tina Turner type of woman. So if you're like a young girl, that gives you courage, to cut through. And for example, I don't know, singing along and, feeling that feeling she has. I don't know, I guess maybe that's what this music does to us, like pop music when you're very young. You're like trying to imagine how you would be in this world and how you are growing up and you're going to be this person, and then you're looking for the people you want to be like. And then I'm nothing like her now, but, it's just like... I remember the strength she gave me to go out and fight for what I want, and actually after the wall came down, I think she had really shitty time, and she was very disappointed. She went from superstar to nobody, back like that kind of thing a little bit, and I was just a fan. I was even in the fan club.
Oh,
and
wow.
I still have my fan club, what's it called? Like a passport.
Membership card?
Membership card. I still have it, and I'm really proud on it. And I know the band is silly, and many East Germans, they make fun out of them because they were really commercial and kind of vain pop stars, like that kind of stuff. They were not at all underground and not at all cool. They're not cool at all. But nevertheless, I guess it's also, I like pop music a lot. I have an affinity to pop music, and I adore pop music. I also did pop music in the past, never very successfully, but that also has reasons. I didn't want to go there further. The far I got was enough for me to see what this world I don't want to be in. But I like pop music a lot, and I listen a lot as well. So I was just thinking to introduce Silly to you guys, because it's something probably most people don't know, that there was a little country with 17 million people who had like also their own pop music, which meant a lot to them, and there's still huge, people are still crying to these songs today, like really. And when I was listening back for this podcast, I was listening back the whole record, I couldn't believe it. I could still, every second voice, every harmony, every break, every bridge, every little fill in, I know everything of this music, and I haven't listened to this music for 30 plus years or more. I'm old now. 40 years. It's 40 years ago that I was into this music. So it's really long time ago. But why does it stay with me like this? I have not nurtured it. I have not listened to this music anymore. Maybe this song I have listened to because I'm thinking to make a project with this song. But I really haven't listened to the entire record. And last night I was listening and I would still know everything. I know how she would sing it on stage. I see her in front of me. I know how she used to, or how even the little riffs on the guitar, the bass line, the fills on the drums sound. I'm a producer, so this is maybe, it's still in my fresh memory. It's crazy. I find this crazy. The way our brain stores memory like that is insane.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask because, I mean, it's so striking just to hear you say the sentence that the country disappeared. You know, we're living in somewhere like England where, you know, I definitely haven't had anything remotely close to that experience. But then to also have such a visceral memory to the music that existed from that time as well must be quite, I don't know, surreal?
Yeah, it is totally surreal. That's why I was choosing the record, because it is something I can still tell about something people don't know much about, you know. And I notice wherever, I mean, some people who know me well, they're probably annoyed that I keep talking about East Germany. It's like 30 years ago. No, I mean, yeah, I understand. But like, it still happened, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a proposal. I mean, okay, we know all the history. Hitler, the wars, the complete destruction, the Allies splitting Germany into halves. By the way, North Korea is in the same position still right now. They have, nothing has changed for them. They're still under full occupation by Russians, and it's very, very authoritarian system. So it was similar how I grew up. And it's just I don't know if people in the West really understand what it means to live under complete authoritarian control. I don't think so. I think you would vote different, dear Westies. I don't know. I don't know. It's difficult.
I mean, you mentioned the lyrical content of this song as well, Mont Clement. So I wanted to ask you a bit about this because I've been reading a little bit.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's a really interesting narrative, like this intergenerational conversation between two women having this conversation about this, you know, mountain, this built from the debris of this flak tower, right? And
it's the debris of the war. It's the debris of the Second World War bombing in Berlin.
Right.
So Berlin was completely bombed into, you know, defeat by Russian and I think also Americans. They bombed Dresden, didn't they bomb Dresden? Anyway, so the debris, so most men were also gone, either, you know, still on the front or dead or imprisoned, prisoners of war. And so this conversation, this mountain is now in Berlin, it's built by the debris of the war. So and that's how it came together. And they're sitting there, this older lady and the singer sitting there and talking about it.
Yeah.
I love this song.
Yeah, she's like, I thank the fathers of the city for giving us this. And then does the old woman like correct her and say actually it was the mothers who...
Exactly. So she said, well, if there's something came cool out of this whole, then that the fathers of the city made this kind of mountain. And then this older woman said, actually, it wasn't the man who decided, we with our own hands carried this mountain together, and we are cleaning up. It's quite a powerful message, you know. Men, war, women clean up.
Yes.
Men, war, women clean up. So it's a beautiful song, and the way how it's sang, and the text is by Werner Karma, is the text writer for this band for 2 records, and it's really, really amazing songwriting. I'm quite still inspired by it, although my work is very different, but just the way how to talk about reality and maybe intergenerational or relationships is really beautiful, I think. Kind of socialist pop music. Oh! Sounds horrible, but I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you wanted to say about this one before we go to your second?
No.
Tip?
I just I recommend, this song seems to be not streaming, which we found out. So I was thinking there is one video on YouTube that explains also the lyrics, and maybe if you want to see, if you're interested, you could go there and listen to this.
Antye, we're going to your second important record now. So which one do you want to talk about next?
So yeah, my second record is in relationship to More Mother, an artist I really appreciate of our time. Maybe it's the most important artist, in my opinion, of our time. And her project, I like all her records and I like all her projects, and I'm a big fan. And we also know each other. We've been together on a panel, and we came across in concert like festivals and stuff. But the project with her partner Rashida Phillips, Black Quantum Futurism, is something I've picked, and they made a record, I think 2020 also, or 19, Waiting Time, Waiting and Waiting Time, and it's a three-track piece which More Mother did by herself alone. Like the sound work is entirely made by herself, because More Mother collaborates a lot and she works with producers and lots of other people. So this is a thing she did solo with her partner, and her partner wrote a text to it, and I think it's also a basis of a lot of exhibition work they're both making together around quantum time and the master's clock, and the entire story talking about different time and slavery and I guess blackness, I would say. And to me it is very, very important work More Mother is doing, and I'm so happy she exists, because I know you had her records chosen on your podcast before. For example, her latest record, The Great Bailout, talks about how until just recently, I think 5 or 10 years ago, the UK taxpayer was still paying back to slavery owners debt to them because of the ending of slavery. So the people, working people, had to still pay back debt to the people who used to own slaves. It's just an insane kind of concept, and shows a lot what's wrong with this world. And for example, I knew about this already for maybe 15 years, but that she brings it in the forefront of an album and makes this beautiful work with it is really important. So I thought to choose a record from More Mother. And this record I like. I bought it when it came out. I'm not even sure it's available on streaming. I guess not.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I bought it on Bandcamp, and it is more like a collage and kind of a loopy, layering story of what both are talking about in this, in a way that it's about time is circular, that the understanding of also the control of time, and the how much slavery and also anti-blackness is connected to the control of time and the control of the clock. So it's very interesting text and concepts they are exhibiting there. And the music is, I love, because I love when people work with found and available recordings and layer textures to make this kind of new world. This is in a way I work like that too often. And I really love this piece.
I'm really glad you picked this one.
Did you like it?
I love it, and I think it, in combination with the zine as well, I felt some kind of almost kinship with Recon in the sense that it's articulating
that's
these
very true. Yeah,
concepts in different modes. But also, I wondered whether the title, the waiting time, waiting time, and the way the zine sort of explores that explosion of language and phonetics and complicates language as well as time at the same time. I wondered whether that was a part of the work that connected for you, because I know obviously kind of deconstructing language or manipulating language is something that's
100%.
very present within what you do.
Yeah, and also political thought or political positioning something. I mean, for many people politics means maybe something else than what it means for me. It means something very negative, for example what we went through last night. But for me, politics are not it's more like understanding that there is a political space, that everything, of course, so often people say everything is political, the private is political, but it is also more than that to me. It's also studying, and maybe that's my Marxist upbringing, I must admit. Like I was raised the way to have a position to understand how exploitation works, how economy works, Marx was an economist, Rosa Luxemburg was an economist. Like I was raised with these people, and I took this serious as a kid. I don't know, I was later very shocked to find out how the society really turned out. And it was very, very, very horrible. But in principle, I like the idea of understanding systemic issues and systemic realities, and not just what's in front of me or something. So, and this is what More Mother does as well. And I really miss more of that work, being more people taking a risk to bring it in the forefront, and maybe it's now happening more. But in the past, I feel it almost feels dead for a while. I don't know, like neoliberalism has made us complicit or helpless. And a lot of people bring politics to the table, and it's part of their process, but it's not in the work directly. And for example, this is what More Mother does, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying, although it sometimes fail and sometimes it's not good, or it's even embarrassing. You cannot be innovative without being embarrassing. It's just not possible. It's not possible. You cannot do something new or something riskful and not be a little bit beside yourself sometimes, like it's just not possible. So that kind of risk-taking and that kind of surge I would like to encourage with Recon, and also that's why I like More Mother.
Yeah, brilliant. Have you seen More Mother live?
Yeah, many times. My favorite was at Rewire Festival, I think, in Den Haag. Is it there? Yes. Together with Pharmacon and Cooper Gademi. First
on the same
row.
Stage?
Yes. Huh? No. Just we were fanning. We were first row.
Oh gosh! Wow.
Yes. Pharmacon, me, and my friend Cooper Gademi from Afghanistan. It was one of her first shows she saw in the West, and I had her there. It was so good.
Oh, amazing!
It was so in our face, and it's already many years ago.
Wow.
I've seen her many times, and also More Mother curated a festival in Somerset House, and it was like, and she had invited me also to go there and met her there.
Oh,
so yeah.
What was her setup for that performance you saw?
She was alone, and she had a theremin and noise machines and a laptop and stuff like that, and some pedals and a mic, and she was mainly very angry.
Right.
Have you seen her live?
I've seen. Do you know what? I'm seeing her tonight.
That's not true. That's crazy.
Yeah. So she's playing in London tonight, so I'm going to see her tonight. And then I saw her.
That's amazing.
Strange. I saw her. It was the last gig I saw before the lockdowns happened in the UK. I saw her February 2020 at Otto, and it was just her and a laptop, very austere, beatless, with her doing her poetry over the top. It was like a very different angle to her records, in the sense that there was nothing to cling on to. It's really, really, really potent. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her in Fabric tonight. Yeah.
Oh, Fabric! I saw that she had announced that. Cool.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, if you've mentioned, it sounds like you have a connection to More Mother's work, Black Quantum Futurism, but also More Mother's work specifically. I mean, I know we were talking in the emails leading up to this about other albums that may have gone in the mix here. Like, if it was going to be a More Mother record that you were picking here, do you know which one you would have picked?
Yeah, I would probably take The Great Bailout, because I think it's very genius that she picked up this theme and made music so beautiful, kind of almost pop music, or like... Yeah, I think this is an amazing work. I like the latest record a lot.
Antye, is there anything else you wanted to mention about More Mother or Black Quantum Futurism before we go to your final record?
Yeah, I think it's important to see an artist's also complexer. Like many people, of course, maybe don't have time to dive so deeply into someone's work when they have like other many things to do. But I think also not just the records she's making, also the exhibitions and the interviews she's giving and the teaching I think she's doing, and it's a whole universe, and I really admire her bravery, how she cut through in this. I think she's doing great, and I recommend everyone check her out.
Lovely. In fact, as well, I wanted to cite this quote that I found in that zine, which was written, as you say, by Rashida Phillips, but there's a quote she puts in from More Mother where she says, "The end has already happened and every day someone figures it out," which is so fucking good. Because especially I think when, we get in conversations about political projects and what we ultimately want to see, and it's very easy to feel like that you're pining for this totalizing future where we're suddenly everyone's there simultaneously, and it's lovely to think that there is also, in a positive sense, like an individual aspect to liberation which is tangible, which is here, which is great. Freaking love it.
It did not go into effect. In other words, the South or the Confederates did not free their slaves at that time. It had no effect because communication got that kind of slow. We have gathered ourselves together here in this most beautiful church, L.P. I come to speak to you from the 6th chapter of Isaiah and the first verse. One of the major prophets that was born out to bring a message before Christ.
Antye, let's do your last important record,
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I was so surprised when you told me that you already had Helena Go on your podcast. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I thought I'm going to come up with some artist nobody knows who is an absolute amazing genius. Yeah. So I chose Helena Gao's work and we took the record With What Remains. It's a beautiful record from 2012. She made, I think, 3 records only. I don't think she's an artist anymore, or at least not to my knowledge. And I think it's one of the most beautiful digital music records I know of. So I'm a huge digital music fan. I love all sorts of noise, from micro to big noise to I chose the record because it's a very big part of me. Despite everything else, what I'm doing, I'm a total nerd. I'm an audio engineer. I'm a frequency nerd. I love production. I love to work in software with music. It's my tool. I'm very, let's say I'm a vocalist as well, and maybe somebody who works with language a lot. But in terms of like music, I think my closest instrument is actually music software like Max and even Logic, like editing, production, MPCs, archive machines. I just yesterday got a photo from an old friend who found a picture of me performing with an Atari and a Akai, custom-made Akai live setup in the 90s somewhere in some little place. And it's just, I come a long way with digital music, and digital music has been important to me. It has given me my work or access to express myself, whatever that is at the moment of time. And so I wanted to choose a record that is in digital music only and is very nerdy in that way. So yeah, and her music is really astonishing, I think. And she is not very much known, and that's why I wanted to bring Helena Go forward. I think it's beautiful composition, and it's kind of frequency music. I call it frequency music. So maybe many people cannot relate. I know lots of people who cannot relate to this, but I listen to this record a lot, and also her other records, especially when I travel. I travel quite often, so when I'm in planes or public transport or even supermarkets or whatever, the record really gives me some sort of space. I love the extension, like the frequency spectrum and the playfulness and the unpredictability of the music and the textures and the world it opens. And as much as I like field recording and also myself, like I like humans. I really like humans or life. I like animals. I like plants. I like living things. But I also do like the digital world. I love the internet, and that's why it's so heartbreaking what is going on, like how people with access to whatever, some fake money or whatever, can buy a space like Twitter and ruin everything for us, you know, like it's just crazy to me. But anyway, we have to build better spaces, and I want everyone to come to Mastodon, by the way. Join Mastodon. It's really good now. Anyway, long story short, listen to Helena Gau's record. It's really amazing composition. And also what I think is interesting about her is that she actually departed from music, I think. I don't know her personally that well. We once corresponded because I wanted to invite her to something, and she said she's not making music anymore. And I think it's also interesting to me to sometimes remember, you know, we can also, like, of course, music is just one facet of our lives. It's very important, and it's very, for many of us, it's savior, you know, it saves us in this world, but it's also not everything, and it's just one thing, and then you can go on and become a gardener, or you can, I don't know, be a teacher, or I don't know, be a podcaster. So
yeah,
you know, like there's a lot to life, and I think if you once understand composition, it's really its own kind of dimension. It's poetic in a way. So I really like this about her as well, that she was saying, okay, I tried my best, I did what I could, and more I cannot do here. I don't know what she thought, but it feels like this. So I really respect that a lot too.
Yeah, it is. Speaking, obviously, having this conversation with you where the foundation of our discussion is music, it does seem alarming on the surface, where you're like, this person has made 3 incredible records and then there's nothing more. But as you say, because the precedent for this chat is music, that's the lens through which we primarily understand people. So it looks like they've disappeared, but as you say, they're just legible to a whole different community now through a whole different set of practices.
Exactly. And what you learn about music and what you learn from making music, I think you can actually use it in everything. It is just another life form, but it's kind of like something that's applicable to all sorts of things. And it's also fun to explore for me, like never having formally studied anything, you know. For me it's like the way how I started to make music, with passion and naivety and just full force and like complete curiosity and no boundaries, and just going fully for some kind of sonic vision that I had, you know, which was I hadn't had an example for. And this is how I try to also go through life in a way, no matter any path. So that kind of approach gives me hope also. But yeah, then there's days like this morning where you think, maybe you can win this way. I don't know.
I mean, you mentioned this being frequency music, and you having an affinity with that. Do you have any idea what initially compelled you towards it? I imagine this is going back some distance, and I know there's never like a easy, tangible answer to these things that you can pop in a box, but do you have any thoughts as to what were the initial pulls towards that sort of sound?
Of course, very much so, because I came from like singer-songwriting in the GDR and like, you know, normal access to very little music, and then I started to play in bands, and then I was in rehearsal rooms with a lot of men on guitars, and it was annoying, and that's what when someone, and I was always there with them writing songs and making stuff. I had my own band when I was 19, and I immediately had some sort of success quite easily also. It was always going quite easily for me. The language, I could kind of like express myself this way. And then one day I went to the record store to I was buying records all the time. I started DJing, I was doing all sorts of stuff, and then one music producer in a music store recommended me to get a computer, because I guess I was complaining that it's no fun. It's no fun to be with men in rehearsal rooms. And then he said, why don't you do your own stuff here? It's a computer, and here's a keyboard, and you learn that. That was before the internet. And then it was in the beginning of the 90s, so I was just in the beginning of my 20s. And at the time also the Björk record came out, the first solo debut.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I can do that. And so I moved to London, actually near Hailuoto, Dalston Junction, yes. And I lived there for 1 year, and I made my first solo music there on a Commodore 64 portable software called Soundtrack. And I was studying piano or electronic music by myself. I was reading manuals. This is also how code made it, and manual language made it into my music, because I had to, before the internet, before YouTube, before manuals, like I had to read all this stuff and figure MIDI out by myself. It was crazy. And then I did it, and it was really, it was the beginning of it. And that was such a freeing thing, to be suddenly able to do my own sound. So it comes from that, and then going along with the developments of the electronic music, the personal computer and the first laptops and Macs and all these like little softwares we were using, and this is how it became my thing. And then I started to play shows and travel, and one gave the other, and this is where I am 30 years later.
Amazing. There was a quote from Helena Goff. Apparently it's from Helena Goff, but I'm just going to check where it came from, because it was something that was allegedly imported from her website, but obviously her website isn't there anymore.
Everything is gone. Also the label is gone, I noticed yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't find the Entract label.
Oh, I think it is still. It's on Bandcamp still.
Yeah, okay. But their website is gone. They used to have quite cool website also.
So we have these secondhand residues of Helena's presence as a musician, but there's this paragraph of thoughts that she expressed about sound, and one of them was, she said, intuition, you are the idea, the movement, the moment. Intuition is a technique of knowledge or self-knowledge that has become internalized, can run on automatic and at a rapid rate. It is a reaching into the depths of memory and the subconscious that cannot be willed or forced, which I really like, because it's occurring within a type of music which I think people on the outside assume has like just a huge cerebral kind of painstaking like process to it, where it's something that is calculated and dialed in to the nth degree. I wondered what your relationship was like with that in terms of intuition within your own practice.
Quote. I didn't know about this. But that makes total sense to me. For example, I feel that her music is played. I don't know if she worked in Super Collider or what's actually her process. I don't actually know. But I think her music is alive. It is very, it's crafted and maybe also close to sound design in some ways. And I think I work similarly. I, for example, work very intuitively with software. And that's my favorite way how to work with it. For example, right now I'm writing a score for a dance piece for Sergiu Matis, a Romanian choreographer, and it's about earthworks, and we're working very strongly with concepts of earth. And I love taking the elements and taking them into the software and playing for like half an hour with the sonic material and the frequencies and make these kind of textures that are beautiful or disturbing or whatever they need to be, And this is for me the most happiest of the moments I can be in. If I can do that, then I have to later listen to it and edit it and put it into a different kind of form and rearrange and so on. But this kind of play is, of course, this is the musician's moment, right? When we can be completely out of time, in real time, in the absolute. Yeah, it's like meditation basically, and it's so precious, honestly. Yeah, it's the best part.
Antye, I wonder if there's anything else you wanted to add about Helena Goth or this record before we wrap this
I
up?
just want to give her a big shout out on wherever she is. Big respect. Your record is amazing. Yeah, I listen a lot.
I have one more question for you, which is about you as a listener generally. So how does music come into your life? Like, in terms of where do you buy it? Are there formats you prefer? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm extremely audio person. Like, I listen all day, every day, all the time. Stuff. So I'm Bandcamp user. It's my favorite platform, I guess. I wish it wouldn't be so much connected to PayPal. I wish it would divest from PayPal. But as a listener, I also do really like it, not just as an artist, and also as a listener. I follow a lot of colleagues and friends, and they every day find some new work, and I can listen to my stream, my feed. I listen every day 10, 20 records, a little bit here and there, go through it. Yeah. Sometimes because I live so remotely, I don't have so much an access to a record store anymore. I used to, but not anymore, so I have to consistently listen on the internet. And then of course I follow a lot of musicians all over the planet, I must say, because I've done so much feminist networking. I know thousands of women who make music. I know them personally, or know of them, or know their music, or have met them, and I follow their work all the time, and I check everything coming out. And yeah, and also my partner is also an electronic musician and producer, Vladislav Delay. We live together, so it's like it's full on all day, every day, every night. Like I also listen podcasts a lot, actually.
Cool.
I do listen a lot of, even at night when I sleep, I listen to music or podcasts or everything, so I'm fully immersed in sound. I also have Tidal. I pay Tidal for me and my daughter. So we have a high quality streaming service, and then I think this is how mostly I do love CDs. CDs are my favorite music medium, and I'm very depressed that it's not anymore
I'm with you.
available or selling, or doesn't make sense to press this anymore. It was my favorite way for us to make music, and it was a kind of golden moment. And I think in this way we also been lucky that we were artists at that moment when there was a independent CD market that kind of worked a little bit.
Yeah.
That was great, and that really gave us probably also some kind of like way to be the artists we are. Or so I think it's much harder these days to just live with Bandcamp, or I don't know, vinyl is not my thing personally. It's too big, too heavy, too much shipping, too long waiting lines. I like tape too, cassettes.
Yeah.
I have a player and I have cassettes and I like them, but yeah, I guess mostly I listen via Bandcamp.
Nice. Antye, thank you so much. I mean, I've loved talking about these records. It's been so enriching, and to also touch on your projects throughout the conversation, but also specifically at the start.
I was
really
so
special.
happy when you mentioned Recon with Gabor.
Oh, of course.
I was screaming. I was like, I can't believe that you know of Recon. That's amazing. I didn't expect that. Yeah, it's really cool. I think Recon is, in a way, I make it for artists more than for maybe a general public. Of course, I'm happy to have anybody come and listen, but I think artists pick up on it maybe more.
Yeah.
It's easier for them to access it because it's online and the way how it is built. I want to inspire artists to be braver and do more maybe complexer work or something like that. Or I don't know, like just be engaged. And so it was amazing that you knew of it. I was so happy. How did you find it?
I have no idea. I think just through you. Through following your work, and I noticed a few names on there as well that Cindy Milstein, whose book I've been reading at the moment, Constellations of Care. So yeah, there was a few roots in, but I've shown it to my partner as well, and she's like, oh wow,
I'm so happy
really
about
special.
this.
Yeah,
it's so cool that it reaches people. That's the wonder about the internet.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And I wish you strength and lots of fun and keep doing your cool podcast. I enjoy it very much, yeah.
And to everyone listening, see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.